All right, so if you did not know already, Ford is pausing the production of the Ford Lightning electric F-150. And I have an article here from Car and Driver. I'm going to go over here briefly, just to get an idea of why they're doing it. And I also think there's an important issue that's not being talked about in this article that has to do with the broader subject of EVs in this space. All right, so if you look at this, this is the article here from Car and Driver. I believe Motor Trend has one that talked about this as well, but it doesn't matter. This is what I want to briefly show here. So they basically are stopping production from November 15th to January 6th. So they are not discontinuing it, but they are pausing it. And I believe it says in this same article here, the employees in question at this production plant are going to get furloughed. Basically, they built, and the total number here, they sold, total number here shows, I believe it was around 12,000. No, sorry. That was last year. 22,000 what they sold in 2024. So compare that to, and they say here, 500,000 of the F-150s. I think Ford was expecting to sell a lot more of the Lightnings than they did. So despite being, the practical, higher range truck, I don't know if you guys remember this. When the Lightning first came out, some of these trucks were going over $100,000, well above MSRP. Just because the first people who really wanted this were really excited about this. And in a hindsight, this style of truck is what the Cybertruck really should have been, something that an actual truck person would buy. But quality control and a few other things, I think people were still skeptical about how effective is this truck going to be as a replacement for an F-150. I think a lot of F-150 customers were just still not on board with buying these things. But that's what I'm getting from this number. So they're pausing this. They're going to furlough this. I don't know how many they expect to sell next year, but there's another big problem that is said in this article, and I believe I can see if I can find it. They're dropping the price of this thing aggressively, so from 57 to 49. If you guys don't know, that is a really bad look for the manufacturer, because what that now does is anyone who bought a vehicle in 2023 and 2024 sees next year's model, a newer vehicle, assuming they're not taking away any features that the Lightning would have, for less money. It does two things. One, it drops the value of the earlier vehicles, because why would I buy a last year when I can buy a newer one for less money? So it really tanks the previous generation's value. But also, I now question the future of why would I buy this year if you might actually lower the price again next year? So that actually could hurt their sales. Now, what this really says is that it was way too expensive to begin with. But I think this is going to cause a problem for them, because Tesla saw the same thing. When they did this to the Model S Plaids, the car went from like 140 grand to just under 100 grand for that car. Well, you've now tanked the value of everyone who's just bought one over the last 2 or 3 years. It's huge. So now a lot of people are probably, especially if anyone paid over MSRP for these cars, these trucks in this case, a lot of people are underwater on those loans solely because of what Ford did. And I think that's bad business overall, in my opinion. So ironically, in the whole EV series of things, Jim Farley made a comment on a separate article. I might make a whole video on this, but probably not. If you haven't heard, the CEO has basically been driving around in a Chinese EV, and he's impressed with that car to a point where he's actually terrified if some of these Chinese EVs are ever able to enter the North American market. I don't know if they will or not, because they need to adhere to North American regulations, which are going to be more strict than China. But Ford is trying to make a big push for the EV play. And I don't think the Lightning is, what's the word? Not all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted for this model. So hope you guys found some use out of this. I do have a weekly newsletter about car news, specifically more about the sports car and enthusiast type cars. In my news, or in the description below, it's the third pedal. So if that interests you at all, please feel free to hit that up. We don't do any third-party ads, so the only stuff I'm ever promoting in there is going to be my own merch and my own stuff. And I try to keep those articles pretty brief, so you can go to that page and you can see all the articles I've written. They're pretty brief, to the point, everything you need to know about some of these new car releases, and nothing more. So with that, thanks for watching.